Hello, welcome back to the Daily Bible Summary, where the goal is to renew your mind as we read a new chapter every day and ask, what can I learn? Today's episode is entitled Brothers Reunited. If you've read chapter 33, let's go ahead and get started. In the last chapter, you'll remember that Jacob was preparing to meet Esau, who is coming out to him with 400 men, and Jacob fears the worst. So, he has sent a large gift of animals to Esau divided into 3 different groups, hoping to soothe any anger or perhaps any desire for revenge. Remember that the last time Jacob was home, his parents had sent him away when Esau threatened to kill him as soon as Isaac died. Now, on a good note, Isaac is still alive even now, 20 years later. So as this chapter opens up with Jacob seeing Esau coming with those 400 men, he begins dividing up the children. Who will first come into contact with Esau? Well, this would be the servants and their children, and then Leah with her children, and finally Rachel with Joseph last of all. Clearly, he's still showing favorites here as well, but at least Leah ranked above the servants. Jacob goes out in front of all of them, and as he approaches Esau, he bows to the ground 7 times. Now, this was a Near Eastern protocol for approaching royalty or superior. Total submission, treating Esau like a king, and along with humility, it shows that he comes in peace. But Esau hardly seems to notice. As soon as he gets close enough, he's running to Jacob. But rather than greeting him with a sword or a fist, he greets him with an embrace and a kiss. It would be hard to say who was more emotional, Esau for having his brother back, or Jacob as he realized that Esau was not going to attack. They both weep during this reunion. As soon as Esau has composed himself, he inquires about the women and children. Whose are these with you? Jacob's answer reveals 2 things about his thinking. He says they are the children whom God has graciously given your servant. This shows that he credits God as the one who gave him the children, and also he is maintaining a humble posture before Esau by calling himself your servant. But now the big question. Esau wants to know, what do you mean by all this company that I met? What are all those animals I passed on my way to you? Esau is asking. And Jacob tells him it's to find favor in my Lord's sight. Again, more humility. But Esau tells Jacob he has enough and that Jacob should keep what he has for himself. But Jacob is insistent. If he has found favor in Esau's sight, he tells Esau, please accept the gift. Now, just being able to see him and to know that there was no enmity is reason enough to give it, Jacob says. And he indicates that he's sharing some of the blessing God has given him because God has also dealt graciously with Jacob and he has enough. At Jacob's urging, Esau accepts the gift. And now, having met and confirmed peace, it's time to continue on their way home. Esau offers to accompany them on their route, but Jacob seems concerned about the speed that they'll have to travel. The children are young, the flocks and herds need to move slowly, and he doesn't want to slow Esau down. He offers that Esau should go on ahead, and Jacob will follow at his own pace. Let me come to my Lord in Seir, he says. Esau offers to leave some men behind, whether for protection or to help, and we're not sure. But Jacob also declines this offer and says there's no need for that. He has what he needs to complete the journey. So Esau goes on his way back to Seir. Jacob, on the other hand, journeys to Succoth, which is east of the river Jordan and closer to where Esau has settled in Seir. There he builds a house and makes booths for his livestock. This speaks of permanence. He must have stayed there for some time. Now, the text doesn't really reveal or record whether Jacob ever visited Esau in Seir as he said he would. But given that he settled nearby for a while, it seems possible that he did. Now, the next 2 verses compress time, and we don't know how much time went by, but at some point, not spelled out in months or years, Jacob moves from Succoth to Shechem. Moses records it this way, and Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem when he came from Paddan Aram. That is, indicating that Shechem has actually become the final destination of his journey when he left Laban in Paddan Aram. The journey that began 20 years ago in Genesis 28 is now complete. God had promised to bring him back safely, and God did bring him back safely. Here Jacob purchases a piece of land for 100 pieces of money and pitches his tent there. And he built an altar also, calling it El Elohe Israel, which is to say, God, the God of Israel. Jacob is publicly declaring that God is the God he serves is the God of Israel, his new name and his new identity. God brought him home safely, just as he promised. One observation for this chapter is that I believe we can see Esau's character has changed over the years. Now, as a young man, he didn't value his birthright and sold it to Jacob for just a mess of porridge. Years later, he's plotting to kill Jacob because, as he said, Jacob stole my blessing. But in another 20 years after that, he's mellowed. He's a lot calmer. And it isn't just the way he embraced Jacob on the return to land either. It seems that Esau had already accepted the fact that the land of Canaan would belong to Jacob and had moved on to build a life for himself and his descendants. He relocated to Seir, established a country that would be called Edom, which is after his nickname, which means red. This relocation suggests that Esau recognized that Jacob had the birthright, and more importantly, God's blessing. And because of that, he chose to make his own way rather than to fight for what was no longer his. Now, I could be wrong about this. It's possible Esau just found better pasture land in Seir. But the warmth of this reunion and Esau's willingness to let Jacob go his way suggests something deeper. Esau seems to have made peace with how things turned out. His descendants would cause problems for Israel's children in the future, but again, it seems that Esau himself has changed. So what can we take away from this chapter? I think that we can see God is faithful to fulfill his promises, even when the path is uncertain. Jacob had no idea what the reunion with Esau would be like, and he definitely had reason to fear. But God had told him to return to the land, and Jacob followed God's lead just like Abraham, his grandfather, had done. God helped protect him from the unknown dangers. And so Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem. And that word safely matters. God promised in 28 verse 15, I will bring you back to this land, and here it is fulfilled. 20 years has passed by. Jacob was the victim of deceit and hardship in Laban's household, but even after 20 years of uncertainty, God remained faithful. Our lives in his service may take us to places that we cannot see the outcome and where we have legitimate fears. But God's promises are sure. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. So here's a thought question for you. As you try to follow the footsteps of Jesus, are you trusting in him to guide you, or are you trying to create your own pathway? We need to learn to trust his faithfulness even when we can't see the future outcome ourselves. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll visit chapter 34 and see a tragic event. And we'll also see the fallout that happens because of it. As we reflect on God's faithfulness to keep his promises, we continue to renew our minds.